What's up, guys? I'm LQ. This is the LQ Review. Thank you so much for joining me here at my YouTube channel. This is where I talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that I love to talk about: movies, video games, comic books, TV shows. And right now, I'd like to give you guys my review of the new Netflix original movie, The Christmas Chronicles 2. Now, a couple years ago, I think 2 years ago, The Christmas Chronicles came out, and it was surprisingly a very good Christmas movie. It added a lot of depth and lore to the Santa Claus mythology. Kurt Russell surprisingly knocked it out of the park as the jolly Fat Man. If you want to hear more about Fat Man, my review of the movie Fat Man is up starring Mel Gibson, which was fun. But right now we're talking about Kurt Russell's portrayal of Santa Claus, and he also gets the character and does a really good job portraying the character. So yeah, the first Christmas Chronicle movie ended up being very good. And at the end, there was a nice little scene where Goldie Hawn pops up as Mrs. Claus. And the fans loved that. The fans clamored for more Goldie Hawn as Mrs. Claus. So in this movie, ask and you shall receive, because in Christmas Chronicles 2, Goldie Hawn's Mrs. Claus plays a large and pivotal role in the film. In fact, this film could have been called Santa and Mrs. Claus, because that is how much her character has influence on this film. And that's not a bad thing. This is a very good thing, because Goldie Hawn is wonderful. She's an institution in Hollywood, and she just owns the role of Mrs. Claus. But let's talk about the movie. The movie involves Katie from the first film, who her mom is now involved with another person. You know, her dad passed away. Her mom is now involved with another person. This guy is played by Tyrese Gibson, and we all know Tyrese Gibson from the Transformers films. Was he in? He was also in Fast and Furious, right? Yeah, Fast and Furious. But maybe I'm confusing things. It's possible I'm confusing things, guys. It's early in the morning. But Tyrese Gibson, obviously is very established and is a very good actor. And I was a little surprised to see him in what amounts to basically a bookend cameo, where he shows up at the beginning of the movie and he shows up again at the end of the movie. But it's nice having somebody with his star power show up to kind of add even more legitimacy to an already well-casted Netflix original movie. So she is not happy that her mom is moving on, because she's afraid that when her mom moves on, that her dad will really be gone at that point. And she doesn't want anything to do with this new family. She wants to run away. And we learn about an evil elf named Belsnickel, who has left the North Pole, but he wants to get back in to the North Pole so he can destroy Christmas. He sees her as his ticket back into the North Pole. So by essentially kidnapping her and going through a series of somewhat convoluted events, she ends up in the North Pole, and Belsnickel also ends up in the North Pole. Let's talk about Belsnickel for a second. Belsnickel is played by Julian Dennison, who was the kid from Deadpool 2. So is he being typecast as a smart aleck, kind of somewhat villainous but yet lovable character? I don't know, maybe. That's kind of that kind of describes Belsnickel here. He's not completely a bad guy, but he's definitely not good either. He's the antagonist of the film. And he kind of performs with the same bravado and comic timing that he did in Deadpool 2. This kid knows how to elicit laughs. And also, to some degree, he knows how to elicit menace. So yeah, he was cast very good, and he did a very good job as Belsnickel. More about Belsnickel here. For those who don't recall, Belsnickel is actually the impish elf from that Dwight portrayed in The Office Season 9. I believe the episode was called Impish Christmas, but it was Season 9's Christmas episode, their last Christmas episode. And Dwight portrayed Belsnickel, and he went around determining if people were impish or what was it, impish or elfish? I don't remember. But, or maybe it was impish and admirable. I don't remember, but I think most people, when they hear Belsnickel, they're going to be like, where have I heard that before? Well, it's probably from The Office. But in this, instead of being a Santa Claus-like character, he is actually an elf who has been cast out of the North Pole. So there's essentially your conflict. Belsnickel wants to destroy Christmas. Santa, Mrs. Claus, Katie and her future stepbrother, Teddy. Not Teddy. Jack, right? Yeah, Jack. Her future stepbrother. The four of them have to save Christmas. And this movie is extremely competent in a lot of ways. Number one, the storytelling is very fluid and very effective. Number two, the conflict is simple enough to follow, but at the same time, large enough that there's room for a lot of adventure. Number three, there's a lot of world building that happens here. And the world building can be as simple as Santa driving the sleigh and speaking in Elvish. They actually have a scene where Mrs. Claus reads out of the Christmas Chronicles, and we learn about the history of how Santa became Santa and how the elves became the Santa's workers and how Belsnickel ended up getting cast out. We learn about all this history through a very simple means where, again, they show you, don't tell you, but it's a very simple means where we learn that information. So it's all very competent and very streamlined in the way they tell the story. Also, this is technically, I know it's getting a limited theatrical release, this is still technically a made-for-streaming movie. The special effects in this are theatrical. The special effects in this are cinematic. There is one of the menaces in this movie, Belsnickel's pet, is what's called the Yule Cat, which is basically looks like a large, it's a big cat. It's a big cat of some sort. I don't know if it's some sort of Siberian tiger or what, but it's a large cat. And it's CGI rendered, and it's CGI rendered very, very well. Oftentimes when you see CGI animals, they look cartoonish. I go back to the Megan Fox movie that came out a few months ago called Rogue, where they were actually fighting a lion. The lion looked pretty cartoonish. This looked way better. Way better. This was very effective. Even the Santa driving his sleigh, being pulled by the reindeer, it was all very effectively rendered to where it looked cinematic. It looked theatrical. It looked like there was a theatrical budget attached to this movie. So, yeah, this movie was good. I liked this movie more than the first one. I did. I liked it more than the first one. The first one I've only revisited once since it came out 2 years ago. I watched it 2 years ago, and then I watched it once last Christmas. And I'll revisit it this Christmas, especially now that I've seen part 2, and I liked part 2 so much. And the reason I liked part 2 is for a couple reasons. Number one, I think that the conflict is a little more defined in this episode. There is a main bad guy that we can identify as, yes, that is the bad guy, and I recognize that bad guy. I've seen that bad guy in other movies. But also the family component, the whole idea of her wanting to honor her dad by not forgetting him, but also having to move on with her life. I think that the actress that plays Kate, what's her name? Darby Camp. I think she does a great job of conveying the angst and the pain, but also the optimism of youth. She's a very complex character, and I really appreciate that, especially in a kids movie. What is essentially a kids movie? I really appreciate that. Yeah, I like this a lot. I thought this was really well done. I'm going to give Christmas Chronicles 2 an A-. I think that the only place it's going to lose points is it ran a little bit long. And it ran a little bit long, though, because some of the world building that they did. And it was just really effective. So I'm still going to give it an A- because I did feel it was a little bit long, but that's really just nitpicking at this point. Really just nitpicking, because this was a very effective, very good Christmas movie with Goldie Hawn playing forced, sensitive Mrs. Claus. I mean, serious, she's moving stuff around. I liked it, guys. A minus from me. But what did you think of the Christmas Chronicles 2? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. And as always, thank you for joining me here at the Oki Review, where we get to talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that we love to talk about. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.